Martial arts, karate, I bust you down like Itachi, cause you legitimately Hachi. Straight kamikaze, I'm talking to bodies as I go straight brawly. Y'all niggas could hardly be me, I'm not part of the sea. I'm part of the sea like Moses. No psychosis or hocus pocus, I put importance to stay focused. Ignore all the BS on my timeline, I throw a lifeline for those thinking I ain't about mine. Hit you upside your head with a tie iron. Can't be your time if it's my time. The set to be patient, I'm patiently waiting. It's driving me crazy, cause lately the odds that I'm facing is basic and basically tragically hating. Anticipating my fall, they want it all for themselves. So I made the call, no need to stall. I go and get them all off of the shelf. I take affirmative action, I'm blasting and laughing of how you reacting to my satisfaction of cashing injections and Benjis and Wilsons, the life that you always imagined. Brother from the goal, yeah. If you ever see him go, it's Holocaust, the Holy Ghost, overcome or overflow. Yeah. Either way, it's overdose. Watch you walk or comatose, penetrating to your soul. Tit for tat and toe for toe, pound for pound and blow for blow. You would never see me fold. Claiming that what you don't know, that is how you get exposed. Left for dead with bullet holes.
Promise to leave it alone, promises all day.
There was a time above, a time before. There were perfect things, diamond absolutes. Things fall, things on earth. And what falls is fallen.
For a fallen angel, is there enough grace? Wings clip each hit, leaves a scar on his face. Battle after battle, now how much more can he take? No more soul sword, nearly about to break. Trying to separate what is real from all of those who are fake. Redeem himself from his sins and learn from all his mistakes. The more you openly give, the more they're willing to take. Trying to be like God's son, suffers for goodness sake. Looking at the bigger picture, I see that there's higher stakes. Money, power, respect is the only thing that I chase. Truth, love, and justice with my heart in the right place. Knowledge and wisdom for the mind can take me a further way. Knowledge is power, they say, but knowledge without power, power without knowledge can only lead to darker days. But darkness is already here, reality we have to face. But if we face it together, together we can do better. I've been down the road of doing it on my own. It only gets more cold the further you go from home. Yet all the lessons I learned, all the seeds that I've sown, some bridges I burned, I did it all on the road. The pursuit of happiness, cause every dog needs his bone. Escaping childhood trauma that follows you till you're grown. Understanding my choices, not everything I condone. But if you are without sin, then you can cast the first stone. Leaving hypocritical liars, hiding behind your mask. Ivory towers and fake ass attire. I'm tired and exhausted from hearing your nonsense. It's garbage, dishonest, can you please grow a conscience? Be aware and present and not be absent of the truth. Then only giving a damn when tragedy happens to you. Only really helping out when it's self-beneficial. Your words cannot be heard when your actions are superficial. Just another beautiful lie. Just another beautiful lie. Just another beautiful lie. Just another beautiful lie. Another beautiful lie. Just another beautiful lie.
Everybody knows that the dice are loaded. Everybody rolls with their fingers crossed. Everybody knows the war is over. Everybody knows the good guys lost. Everybody knows the fight was fixed. The poor stay poor, the rich get rich. That's how it goes.
If you know, then you know. Can't believe all that you're told. All that glitters and gold. I ain't selling my soul. All of these sellouts and cop-outs, they're making me hop out to get them exposed. Bunch of Pinocchios growing their nose. Always be saying the most. Swear to be lying, not claiming the diamonds when really they cold. When pressure they fold, they do what they told. Sheep to the slaughter, what sheep to a gold. The shepherd and herder is on top of both. Though no one come close to the host of a home. But what if you can be more than a man? An American idol that's worshipped by fans. You might have a chance to socially advance. Ascension to heaven, look down on the land.
That it's now or never. Everybody knows that it's me or you. And everybody knows that you live forever when you've done a line or two. Everybody knows the deal is rotten. Old Black Joe still picking cotton for your ribbons and
There's really no difference with politicians and all of the rhetoric. Donkey or elephant, to tell the truth to be hesitant. Like media with subliminal messages to how it really goes down and how it went down to the way they be telling it. Focus on things that's irrelevant, showing no reverence. What came before at the top of the precipice? Being more negligent to corporations that benefit off of our deficit. We kill the profits of medicine, while the ones at the bottom get shitted on and written off at the end of it. How about religious zealots versus cynical heretics, radical terrorists, racist confederates, criminal elements, all taking life for the hell of it, lacking the love and respect for it.
Thank you! Run that shit back, bro!
How do you feel?
It's alright. It's alright. I don't know yet. Still gotta process, I guess, the entirety of what I just saw, but I would say probably due to personal preference, and then probably just, I guess, judging what maybe what I know most people probably do like. I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10. That's probably what I'd give it. What you think?
I'd say an 8 or a 9.
That's tough. I don't know about all that. That's overhyped. Honestly, the pacing of the film is what bothered me the most.
It went by too fast?
Yeah, there's a lot going on without explanation, you know? You're just kind of like forced to accept what's happening.
Okay.
You know? There's really no, where this guy come from, how does this exist, how do you know that, you know what I'm saying? It's like you kind of have to make it up for yourself.
Oh, look. Cute little background.
Yeah.
We going up, shit going down. We lighting them up, you best hit the ground. Shooting them up, one after round. When there's blood in the air, you better not dare to come around town. Father, please forgive me, have mercy on my soul. Fools keep trying to test me and I will never fold. It's the way that Wendy raised me, the city of the gold. Load them up and let them go, load them up and let them go, load them up and let them fly.
You already know what it is. It's El Divino Vega. Here we are at the Chop Shop. It's a late night session here where I'm at, obviously. Gonna put a pause on that music as much as I love hearing that beat. Obviously you saw that little preview video, I guess, of like a quick reaction coming out of that movie that I was torturously watching, if I'm be honest. But I guess it was a must watch so that I can have a pure, honest critique of the film, right? And obviously you saw my wife there. That was important too, because I feel like for me, she represents probably like a general audience, if anything, vibe. Like it's a good hearing her perspective is definitely that coming from a perspective of somebody who has no knowledge or affiliation, so to speak, to like DC or comics or these characters, anything of that nature. Her perspective is always like just somebody who goes to watch movies and, for what they are. That being said, obviously you heard her score. I will say, obviously, you're not going to get this because this was a conversation we had later on. The more we actually talked about the film, then she's all like, yeah, actually, you're right. After, like, acknowledge. Because I think, again, people come out of a movie, it's like first instinct is to just think about the things maybe you did like, just, or maybe how you're feeling leaving a movie or something like that. And especially, again, if you're just going there as a general audience and just to enjoy a film, I can see why this would probably why you're just thinking about the good things, so you're gonna rate it high right away. And it wasn't until after the conversation we had that then she starts admitting the things that she also disliked, and then she kind of like changed her answer. She's like, "Yeah, I'm actually gonna give it a 7." Actually, now I think about it, and again, that's to me understandable for somebody who's general audience. For me, I said 6 out of 10. But again, I only went up that high because I knew, again, I did consider for people, the normies, you know what I'm saying, those who aren't necessarily there to critique the film, just to enjoy a film, just to be fed entertainment. For that reason, I'm like, okay, I see those elements in the film that I know they're gonna like. So just to give it a fair rating between my preference, that for sure would have placed it lower, but with just knowing what might be wanted by a general audience, I was like, it'll give it that little boost up to 6. But yeah, that it's definitely not going higher than that for me. It's again, it's very much understandable why there is this very mixed bag of reviews when it comes to this film. And obviously, if you don't know what film I'm talking about by now, I mean, read the description. It's obviously Superman, but even the title, I called it Super Chop because we're here to super chop it up. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna chop down that damn movie. No, I'm playing, but but it's definitely gonna want to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Just a little bit. I'm gonna, I guess, try not to spoil it too much. Maybe there's people that still want to watch it. I tell you this much: if you're more into the more like mature, realistic vibe of DC that we've gotten before in the past, this is far from it. But if you're a Marvel fan and you wanted to see that in your DC movies too, then this movie for sure is for you. Again, it's like I needed to watch it. I guess my wife was right. She was like, you need to just go watch the movie because obviously she kept hearing me talk about it. To anybody and everybody that I guess was trying to have that conversation with me, whether I watched it or not. And obviously, I would give him my critiques based off just the trailers that I seen, the spoofs or the sneak peeks and things of that nature, the reviews I was reading and seeing. And then yeah, she was like, "Bro, just if you watch the movie, at least you know that like it's your actual, I guess, critique, whatever." So her idea, she was like, "I'm just gonna take it," because she was, I think, even she heard that one of my guys was gonna take me because he also wanted me to see the movie. And so initially that was the plan, but then he got busy. And again, I for me, it was like, all right, well, hey, it is what it is. I'm not gonna make too much of a fuss about it. Again, because from the trailers, I could tell I just wasn't gonna like the film. And sure enough, watching the movie, it definitely wasn't my film. It's actually, if I'm gonna even be honest, what's sad about it is that if this is the standard for what even normies want to watch, even that's kind of sad. If I'm gonna be honest, this isn't even coming from a place of just downplaying, just to keep it like 100. Is it just the story, the way it was driven, the pacing of the story, the transitioning from scene to scene, it was just off for me. And when I say off for me, I feel like it should be off for everybody who's actually paying attention. And again, when I say that to me was Marvel. Like that felt like Marvel. Like it's like Marvel has that thing where it's like, we're just going to tell the story. Things are just going to move forward. without really having to explain much, and then you always, you know, you 9 times out of 10 leave the movie with like the plot hole, like there's this plow, that plow, and then there's things that like that are just like forcefully implanted so that you think that's what it is. Like, "Hey, we're just gonna tell you what we want you to think about the scene and what the story is, da da da." But like, even if how it got there made no sense, right? And this movie very much does that. It's like there's really no true sense of things till it like says it for you, you know, and then it's like, oh, okay, then that's what it is. But the reality is if you're actually even thinking about if that's the answer they're giving you, it's like, but still, like, how does that make sense? Like, how do you get there, you know? Um, very much that in so this was my very much my concern from the jump to why I really again had no interest in seeing this movie, but to I guess give it that fair critique, you know, an honest critique where it's like, hey, you know, can't tell me I didn't see the film and that I don't know what I'm talking about because I did, and it still sucks as much as I thought it was from what I gathered in the trailer. Um, again, I can the anybody who's overhyped about it, I'm kind of shocked that they're overhyped. Um, because to me, there's nothing really that delivers that other than like again, if you're just wowed by the simplicity of things, right? Like Superman did this and he did that, and that's all I really cared to see. Um, then other than that, I feel like any other thing that you're trying to place on him, I feel like you're forcing it in the movie for yourself because you want it to be that. Because there's a lot of things that I've seen like people characterize the Superman as, or even like things that are, oh, this movie felt like this and like that, and it's like, how so? Like Houseway, like for real, like Houseway, because the movie I watched, it doesn't really do that for me. Again, it's like a lot of it's force feeds you to think that, like, it's like, hey, this is what it is, like this is what we're talking about, type thing. You know, this is what the movie's about, and it and but like you wouldn't gather that by action sequences or even dialogue sequences alone prior to those moments of like revelation, so to speak, of like this is what it's about. um so again, I feel like anybody who's like saying things like that are very like positive about the movie, I feel like I think you just want it to be that. And again, this isn't I'm not dissing you if that's where you're at. I'm just explaining to you what I believe is happening here because again, I saw that same movie and that's just not what I got from it. I mean, it's the whole there is a very big difference between this Superman and all those that came before it. It's not even close, really. The Again, I think people that believe it's that or want it to be that are forcing it to be that. Even the cartoons do a better job of portraying like and that's what they trying to make us think. A lot of people are saying that that's what that is, like this is what this is. And for somebody who watched a lot of the like the Justice League animated series or the Superman animated series, even that connection I don't really see. Um Again, I can see how you can force it with certain scenes, like and maybe like mostly just like the action sequences and things of that nature. But for the most part, like there's other things in this film, that would for me, which or and which did for me, it presented itself different from like the cartoon series or the animated series or even comic book runs that I know about. But and not to say that I have like a vast majority of all like of like Superman comics of like, you know, in my head, like in my head or anything, because I haven't really read that many Superman comics like that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to pretend that. But even the ones that I have read, still not the same, right? So again, I just feel like anybody who's speaking on these terms, I feel like you're kind of forcing this, possibly because you want it to be that. And I don't knock you for it. I get it. Like, hey, it's Superman. You want it to be right. You want it to be good. You want it to be great. I'm not so sure this is it. Like, no. I'm for certain this isn't that. Yeah, they missed the mark heavily. I mean, almost. I'm gonna even cover some things that you probably are seeing online, right? Like, uh, for sure, the whole parents thing. It's true. Apparently, it's true. It's apparently these parents of his wanted him to be wanted him to be a conqueror, some sort of like you know, yeah, some sort of king, I guess, over Earth and with a harem of women and and it's so here's the thing. It's crazy, but it's not even meant to be. It's the entirety of the movie for the most part. It's everything's a joke every other 15, like that whole thing that you've heard, that also is true for sure. Like there's a joke every other like 10 to 15 minutes that kind of take away from any kind of serious um I guess nuance in the film. There's nothing to be like, you're pretty much watching this movie and it's for sure a fantasy. Like nothing should or could be taken serious, right? And maybe that's what some people want. I guess, right? Like it's like I don't, which is I don't know if how true that is, because again, I feel like up to this point, the peak of DC was films that took the character serious, gave you serious storylines, uh, it grounded you into how would these characters exist in our world, and up to now, that's actually been the peak of DC. It wasn't until them steering away from that concept that it actually started like going down, right? And we'll get to the numbers in a second, but I just want to keep talking about just, I guess, my review here without really spoiling much other than what's already been spoiled. That I'll cover. Then even like I'm sure you guys heard about like I will say, okay, the whole like political thing, it's there to a certain degree. Like it is there to a certain degree. I can see why people take away the concept of like what they're trying to portray there. I can see why they do that, why they think that, but I don't think it's as I don't think it's really that deep. Honestly, I don't think it's that deep. It's not that crazy. But I can see like if that's what you're consuming all day, I'll put it like that. If that's what you're consuming all day, then I can see why that's what you're thinking. You know, it makes sense then. Like why you think that. If that's if that's the things you're paying attention to, then I can see why you're thinking that. And again, it could be, right? I'm not even saying that it's not. I wouldn't know for certain. I'm not James Gunn. I don't know what his intentions are. I know at the end, towards the end of the end of his promo for the movie before it like got out, I know that was something they were kind of saying, that the movie has some sort of kind of like political, I guess, commentary, so to speak. And again, it could very much be that, right? But it isn't that. Not to the extent that I think people are trying to make it. But again, I can see why they would. Let's see what else. Like, okay, here's one. A lot of people are praising the whole Clark and Lois thing, like that they think that that's the best takeaway of the movie, right? I've seen that. I've seen that a few of my peoples that I rock with that apparently do have, I guess, maybe a more appreciation for the film than I do. I've seen them talk about that. That's something that they liked. I would argue against it and say I don't even think that's as, again, when I say the story is not a really well written story, I mean like I'm just being that honest. It really isn't. There are things happening even in that. Again, what they're trying to force to be a love story, right? Because like they're forcing that love story on you, and when I say they're forcing it on you, I mean it doesn't even feel like if you're really like again, if you're really looking to be pulled emotionally, like to invest into that kind of relationship buildup. This doesn't do it. Again, this movie, you're thrown into they're thrown into the world that's already like made, right? It's a world that's already made, relationships that are already like they are where they are, and for that reason, it's really, for me personally, it was hard to really like think to myself like, oh, this is it. And I personally think that's a mistake here. I think his idea of where he's, and I will say this, I think, like, and again, this goes back to something that I've said before. It's like, I really don't think he should have done this film. Even when you think about his most successful films for what he's known for, as much as Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Just to say what it is, even though it starts in a somewhat of an originy story type of way, like at least like it gives you some sort of sense of an origin of who Star Lord is. That's really the only guy you get that the more in-depth origin of. Everybody else is, you get their origin slightly, right, throughout the film and things like that. And but even that movie, as much as it could be somewhat of an origin film, somewhat, um rightfully so, like it can be, but I would say that it's still thrown into a universe that was already like built on something. And this feels like he thought he could probably do the same, even though but there is no world already built for this, right? Like even for somebody, even for someone, like for those who probably thought BVS, let's just say, wasn't oh, like, man, we wanted one more story of Superman before getting into that, which again, rightfully so, like I get that, right? And but even then, all that to say that Man of Steel is still it's still the foundation of that whole universe that was to come after that, or that came after, right? So like it at least gives you a proper origin of the main character of who the story plot is surrounding, right? Which is Superman, right? And again, this movie fails to do that, between who Superman is, between Lois, their relationship, the Justice Gang, all that, whatever. There's a lot of key characters in this movie, and it's like it's hard to really connect to anything because it's just that you're just thrown into this, and just all this stuff is happening, and it's like, what the hell? And the pacing is so out of whack. It's really hard to take the time to make sense of things, because it's like it's already moving on to the next thing, and because again, you're certain scenes, you're just trying to make sense of it yourself, because it's like, why are we talking about this? Why is this why is this happening? Who's this character? Like why does this character exist? Why does things like that? And again, it's just moving like this, boom, 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 and then it's like you got these moments where, again, it's like that, going back to the Clark and Lewis thing, I felt was, if you're trying to be spoon-fed something, in the sense of like, again, because like it's just moments that give you some sense of drama, and that's how you, again, that's all you're there for as far as the general audience is concerned, I guess. Again, I can see why you're coming out of there thinking, oh, or like, whether it's like some people that are saying it's an okay film, it's good, it's, some people are overhyped about it. I'll put it like this: I feel the most honest critique is anybody who's like saying it's good or mid and lower. Anybody who's like praising this to the moon, I'm skeptical of to really why you think that is. And that's not to, and it's to say that I really haven't really seen many of those videos. It's more like posts, people that I just see sharing posts of like people giving this movie high praise, and then just like the accounts themselves, like Warner Brothers and DC, and sharing these kinds of like reaction videos. Other than that, I'm really not even getting that, right? Which honestly has me believe that I don't think even that's true. And again, we're gonna get to the money and even the grading and all that in a minute. Again, I just want to kind of just give a brief review, and then we'll chop it up about that. But what you call it, man? What else? Like, I will say this, and I don't know if there's an explanation for this either. And I think it's no surprise, right? Peacemaker's in this movie, and it's like how. And I haven't even seen season two, so maybe there's a way that they explain it in season two. And that's again, that's a show I haven't even seen. I haven't seen season one or season two. Honestly, I wasn't even interested in that character ever in the first place from the Suicide Squad. It's because once I saw that, the writing was on the wall for me, right? Like I was like, I already know what this guy's about to do here, and it's like, damn, like And I've said it before, like if Suicide Squad existed in its own, right, like where there was no other Suicide Squad movie prior to it, with characters already built and instilled and already like grounded in their own way of being, I probably wouldn't have had a problem with what James Gunn did in his Suicide Squad because that's up his alley. It's characters that whatever you use a bunch of wonky characters. You can do that whole parody gimmick thing, whatever, and everything's a joke, blasey blasey, and it's like, all right, cool, like that film could exist and be its thing, but because there is a Suicide Squad that came before it, that's why it doesn't fit right. It's like for me personally, it's like, yeah, nah, dude, like these you're using characters that already existed, and then like the characters that you use that already existed, from killing them to then also just making them act out of character of how they acted before. That's what threw me off. Like that's why I just was like, that's why that movie doesn't stick for me. But nonetheless, that style of his in that movie, right? And then once you hear, oh, he's gonna do Superman, it's like, oh boy, like damn, like that. I already knew, right? And I'm telling you, it's for sure that like there's no yeah, there's no other way to put it other than this. This is for sure a James Gunn movie, and and we're paying the price for it. I Everything's like I said, you feel like you're in a fake world. Like it's obvious it's not real. Like, and then again, it's like I'm not saying that it has to be real, right? Like I get it, whatever. It's a superhero movie, so technically isn't it fantasy? And yeah, like sure, a part of it is, right? Like a part of it is, but make no mistake, and the worlds that mostly any of the like whether it's Marvel and DC, like Superman's in New York, they're in real world settings, right? So it's like don't pitch me this whole like isn't it all fake? No, it's technically not. Like the characters are sure, but the world that they're put in is very much real, right? Like even when it's cities that don't really exist, Metropolis and Gotham, they're representative cities that do exist. So don't give me this whole like, oh, it's a fantasy world. Like, no, not yet, to a certain degree, but some of it is still real, right? This isn't Star Wars. This isn't Lord of the Rings, where it's like full on fantasy. No, there's a sense of reality here that if you get the right balance of the two, you can deliver a great film. The aesthetics of the film, which I already had a problem with in the trailer for sure, watching the movie and how those pieces are moving together in a linear fashion due to now that I'm watching a movie in time in real time, right? Even that was out of sync. Like that was like hard for me to I guess soak up because it's a weird world, right? It's very much a retro world. Like it's it's very much a modern meets 70s/60s world type thing. The aesthetics are somewhere in between, actually, or even like so it's like you feel out of time. It's not even you don't really know where you're at. You know what I'm saying? Is this the future? Is this the present? Is this the future? Because technology and all this stuff, it's a lot of modern stuff happening, but yet everybody's for the most part wearing clothes that like are from the 70s, the aesthetics to the even to like the offices of like even the Daily Planet seem like you're in a 70s era type office. Like everything's like that. It's wonky, but then some places do appear somewhat modern. Offices seem, like when you're in LexCorp, like it's very much modern. So it's again, it's the aesthetics are in conflict. I feel right, like that the idea of like, oh, we're gonna do this whole retro thing of modern and past time together in a world that was off to me. Um, and so again, it's just out of whack. Um, the the idea that, yeah, that to me just already, that to me was like, I guess the cementing or the foundation of a world that wasn't real, and then everything else that all the other moving pieces around it built on that, right? Like the way people were acting to threats, this you already know, right? Like the whole selfie thing, capturing things on video in the middle of a crisis, like that's not real. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not real. I'm sorry, it's just not real. Most people in a real crisis of that magnitude run. This isn't like, don't get me wrong. Yes, there's things that do happen that people are just goofy enough to like record. Some of that are like fights that are happening in the street or in the train station, things of that nature. Some of it is like shootings, right? You know, but even that, some of that footage is mostly caught on cameras that belong to like uh businesses, street cameras, officer cameras. People aren't stupid enough to stick around to get shot. Most people flee. You know what I'm saying? And that's not even on the magnitude of a damn like giant monster or dude that's shooting lasers out of his eyes and things of that nature. People aren't staying for that. Like, so like again, that was unreal to me. People are just somehow still in the city when this is happening, which is just crazy to think that this is normal. And again, this is where I'm saying like the disconnect of people trying to make it seem like this is very much cartoony. Like even the cartoons have the sense of like, no, when danger kicks off, everybody scatters, everybody runs, everybody's trying to survive and live. So again, there's just so many things that are happening that just are very disconnected from reality in a very, to me, serious way that is worth the consideration of what I'm critiquing this film for. But again, I'm trying to just touch on things that I know you guys know. So that way, like, if there is anybody who hasn't seen it that wants to see it for some reason, or even if, like, again, who like me, you first intended, or you just intended to, where my initial intention was just to like wait for it to come out on streaming, and then I did say like, unless somebody wants to take me to watch it because they really are pressed that I go, watch it with them, then that's the only way I'll watch it. But yeah, all that to say, I don't want to ruin it for anybody who does want to see it. I'm pretty much speaking on things that have already been discussed all over online. And if they're the things you haven't came across, then hey, then you can stop the video here, or whatever, and just not watch. But if you are interested in, again, I'm still, even with what I'm talking about, it's not really speaking on anything you wouldn't know that you didn't see in the trailers. Again, these are things that even just came out in the trailer. Like happened in the trailer, right? Old girl giving a selfie. Now that being said, like I'm trying to first touch on things that I feel like are like just broad, right? Like it's not necessarily touching on the character too much, but yeah, I'm kind of already delving into that. So might as well kind of touch on that. I will say this, like, again, this is the furthest Superman from any other Superman that I've seen. As much as that people are trying to push that to be a thing, I don't know really where that comes from. And I'll say this, right, to this degree, because it's not enough. It shouldn't be enough if, like, oh, there's that smile, or oh, he saved this thing, or he saved this person, and that's your catalyst of that entire thought process of him being somewhat or being representative of Superman of another source or another material. Like, for me, like, no, that's not enough. That's kind of like, well, any hero is gonna do that, I guess. It's beyond that. right? It goes beyond that, right? And this is something I was even sharing with my wife, was like, the problem with this Superman is that they try to humanize him too much, right? Which is, again, that's it goes back to that whole force feeding you something, and that's what that's what they did with this character for sure. And it wasn't even just him, even Lex Luthor they humanized a lot. Um, and the problem with that, and this is where I know, like, you do not, you're not being honest. I think if you're convinced that this Superman is representative of any kind of other Superman before him. And but just to not go too deep, right? Let's just stay on base level here, like what we do know. Let's just call like modern times. We don't have to go too deep into the past times of Superman. But what I will say is this: is Superman is super on everything, right? It's not just his powers, right? It's not just his abilities. It's not just what he can do. It's who he is. Like, even his characteristics, right? He is a superman in every category, right? Because he's supposed to be the best of man in every way. Okay, not just his abilities. It's not just that he can jump high or fly, shoot laser beams. He has the super strength or something like that, and super invulnerability and things of that nature. It's that he's the most humble. He's the most considerate, the most passionate, the most whatever, this and that. And again, they force feed you these things in moments of the film, but it doesn't stick, because then there's other things that follow that take away from that. That it's like, okay, so he's not that super then, you know? And all because for the sake of really trying to make him human, because I don't know if it's they think that that's the key ingredient to making him relatable. And then if that's the case, this is where you then fail to do Superman. Superman isn't necessarily supposed to be relatable because he's human. He's relatable because he goes through the human experience. But what separates him from us is that, similar to the story of Christ, is that even in the human experience, is the best of us and the best example for us to look to say, this is what I should do. This is how I should be acting. This is the choice I should make. Things of that nature, right? That is lost in this film because he's not the best in every scenario. This idea that that's what separates him, or that's what makes him a bland character, is like, couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. And this is what Man of Steel got right. And maybe other Superman movies and iterations before this, and that's that, again, it shows you what Clark has to deal with, and it's the same things we deal with, but the way he deals with them are in the most righteous way you should deal with it, right? And then it's like, even in the moments that he's tested the most, where it looks like he's about to snap or about to break, it takes like something really crazy for him to break that part of his character. But even then, there's always usually a friend or, significant other that's there to keep him righteous, so to speak, right? Or holy, whatever, like to keep him super, right? There's always that, like, when he's about to snap, he has Batman to check him and be like, Clark, this isn't you. You know what I'm saying? And his friendship, his kinship, those around him, even it's like they keep him grounded in who he is. You know what I mean? And then allow him to not lose himself. Even if there's moments that it appears that he's about to. At least in the most purest iterations of Superman. Now, I'm not trying to say that there aren't versions, obviously, that do exist that are opposite of that, right? Ultraman, for that matter. You know what I'm saying? The Superman from even the Justice Lords, whatever. You know, from the animated series, right? These it's a different Superman, right? There are different versions of Superman. Don't get me wrong. But again, for somebody to say what I'm trying to point out here is that the lie lies in the fact that this is somehow the most accurate Superman ever to the lore or to like the animated series. Like I did not see that. I did not see that. You know, that's my whole point. I did not see that. I feel like in the movie, this Superman for sure falls short of who Superman really is. And what's crazy about that is that this isn't even an origin film. This isn't even him becoming Superman. No, he's like already Superman. This is what I mean. Like, there's so many disconnects that just don't fall right for me. You know, and again, this is stuff that you already seen in the trailer. So that's why I feel like none of what I'm telling you is even far fetched. Again, seeing this movie, all it did was solidify the very notions of the things that I gathered from the trailer, right? And now I just saw it in its full fruition and how bad it really, really is. The concept of even like, let's just say, what he stands for, right? It's force fed, right? Like, because you just have to accept that he is good, despite like the fact that there's moments where he's not, you know, and not that he's like evil or anything. I'm just saying like he falls short of being Superman. That's my whole point. Because again, Superman is supposed to be super all around, right? Even to that, again, I'm talking about things that we already know. Even that sequence where you see him with Lois with that monster in the background that the Justice Gang is fighting, that's not in Superman's character to do that. And honestly, even that conversation they have in that moment made no sense with where the story is in that moment. Like, even like I'm telling you when I say that there's just things that just don't make sense, right? And again, it's meant to be a romantic moment, awkwardly enough, right? Or like a intimate moment between him and Lois. But anybody who's honest about where the story is in that moment would know, like, that's weird placement of a moment to have that. It's just weird, and where the story is in that moment, that's a weird moment to place some sort of intimacy with Clark because it really makes no sense. And I won't ruin where the like again. It's like I really wouldn't be ruining it because crazily enough, the trailers really showed like the promos between the like the first marketing team to the second one. Like it shows a lot. Which again, I said I don't know if it was on Sil's channel or when he was on mine, but it was like that was one of those things where I was like credit to them where it's due because they're going hard and clearly they're getting the word out one way or another that hey, this movie's out. And I think that that's what helped them the most with, I guess, where the numbers are now. And this probably be a good pivoting point, good transition or segue, as they say. But other to say that a lot of what's in this movie you technically already seen. Like you can technically, in a sense, almost put the story together just by what they promoted without really having to see the movie. That's how much we actually got. Granted, there's certain things you didn't see, but for the most part, what you do get, in the trailers is what you're getting in the movie, just kind of like stretched out, right? So again, like if the trailers alone isn't enough for you, then trust me, it isn't enough. Like it's if you were like me, where you were like, yeah, I'm not moved by these trailers. It didn't intrigue me in any way, shape, or form to go see this. You were right. It's you didn't have to go see it. I technically didn't have to. Again, I'm kind of glad I did just so that I can now say like for certain, hey, what I'm talking about is what it is. The trailers are not far-fetched from the movie. It's pretty much the same, just longer. with again just minor other details that are technically not even that important to the story plot because the story there's so much going on in the story plot that gets all smushed in that it's really again hard to really gather what is going on, where what is this that again you kind of have to make sense of things on your own until it's finally force fed to you. But even the way it's force fed, it's kind of like still doesn't make sense to me. Okay. Um, and I guess I'll leave it at that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I can speak on. Um, maybe I will say, yeah, CGI moments are there are moments that it's decent. It's like okay, that's decent scene. There's some decent CGI scenes like that are like okay, that's not that bad actually. And then there's just moments that for sure is bad. And again, most of them that you saw in the trailer are what it is. Like it's just like oh, that's rough. Like oh, like why even do that? You know what I'm saying? Because it's like it's bad CGI. Um, uh, on the notion of characters, right? I kind of spoke on Superman. Even Lex Luthor. Let me say that. Let me talk about this. Even Lex Luthor. Those who are saying it's not a good Lex Luthor, those that they're being honest. It's not a good Lex Luthor, and which is funny because it's like again anybody who's trying to say that this is a close Lex Luthor to the where do you see this? Like, how do you like? You must really want it to be that you're convincing yourself it is because it really isn't. Like, and again, I don't even say this. I'm not saying this to be offensive to anybody or offend anybody or to, hurt somebody's feelings. No, I'm generally just saying like I just feel like you want it to be great, you want it to be good, and you're forcing yourself to think that this is good because even even that Lex Luthor. And here's the funny part: for all the for all the like for all the flack that they gave the Jesse Eisenberg Luthor, that Luthor is actually still closer to the Luthor that you get in the animated series or in the comics than this Luthor. And like that is just like facts. I don't know if I can say why that is without giving away details of the movie, but like when man, I'm trying to think if there's a way to say that, but I'll say that part of me just wants to say fuck it, just go crazy with the details. But man, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say too much without ruining the movie for anybody. I guess if you still want to watch it, what I'll say is this. I guess is for sure. The parts where they criticize Jesse Eisenberg's Luthor, it's actually worse in this film. If I'm gonna give that any kind of I guess legs to walk, that concept of that the Jesse Eisenberg Luthor has issues that separated from like the version of Luthor that exists in the comics or in the animated series for that matter, it's worse in this film. And again, in comparison, it's like the Jesse Eisenberg version of Luthor is so much closer. Okay, it's so much closer. Like I got a mosquito bite on my head. It's so much closer to the actual Luthor portrayal in the comics or in the animated series than this one is, despite the bald head. You know what I'm saying? Like, bald head is the only thing you got, really, with this Luthor that's close to the other Luthor. Again, if you're trying to say that it is, you're forcing it. And probably with just like minuscule truths or moments that exist that would have you believe this is the same kind of Luthor, but everything else disconnects that to be true, right? The same way it is for Superman, it's the same way it is for Luthor. Like there's a moment or scene that might have you think, oh, that's Luther. Like, wait, and then it's like, but everything else is off. And again, that's a conversation. That's a conversation to be had. Still, I just, maybe people have the intentions of still seeing this, and that's the only reason I won't say. But I believe me, we will have that discussion even more in depth about what it is exactly I'm talking about, to why these characters disconnect from what people are trying to say they're connected to, or how they truly are close to such and such iteration or such and such adaptation, whatever. Da, da, da. I'll explain why it's not true, but I'll save that for when I'm ready to, I guess, spoil it for you guys. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to decide whether or not to do it, because I've seen plenty of videos that are kind of already doing that, spoiling the film. I just want to be that guy, I guess. But I'll tell you this much: probably by the end of the week, going into this next weekend, once Fantastic Four is out for sure, and I think there's already been the preview viewings of that movie. But I guess once the next weekend comes, I'll feel confident, because I'm almost certain this is where it stops for Superman, right? Like, this was the last weekend they had to actually do something significant. And here we can segue into the numbers, I guess, so far from what I've seen that we have, right? And that's that. Let's see. This is the second weekend that just passed, with the Monday and Tuesday of this week so far, from what I've seen. And the movie has grossed up to $416.2 million. Which, again, if I had the time to like go back and find these streams that I was on, whether it was, I don't know if it was my own, maybe I could go back and see my own, but I'm almost certain it was like either Sills. I think it was on Sills' channel that we spoke on this. But anybody wants to like fact check me, you know what I'm saying? This is where I said I thought it was going to be. I said it was going to be. I said it was going to do better than Superman Returns, which was like 391 million. That it would be slightly better than that, but I was not confident that it would pass Man of Steel. And right now we're at the 416.2 million mark with Superman. And I think this was its last final good shot at doing something. Again, there's still plenty of, I don't know, 2 more days, maybe at best, to do something. But I think once Thursday night hits, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, all that belongs to Fantastic Four, I believe. And then the second week after that, I feel still belongs to Fantastic Four. I'm not sure if there's any other movie that comes out after that. And again, I'm just comparing the bigger IPs. The reality is there's movies out right now that are really doing good that probably also did take away from, maybe could have done some kind of damage to Superman's success. I don't know. Who knows? I just know I see Jurassic World is actually doing pretty well for the lack of marketing it had. F1. But all that to say that I feel like this weekend was the last weekend for Superman to do something, and it's exactly where I thought it was going to be. This is exactly where I said it was going to be. Is somewhere between 400, and that if the gun fans pull through, the gun fanatics, the Marvel fans for that matter, if they come through for gun, maybe 500, right? Which it could probably still reach that, and I think that's as high as it's going. So I don't want to say I was right, but I was kind of right. You're saying it again without really knowing much. Again, I'm not even some sort of guy who does this. Like, this is me just kind of like off the videos I've watched, people I've seen talk about it, conversations I was participating in, where my guess, but calculated guess, not just like, let me just throw some number, just calculated guess, due to certain reasons. I did feel that the whole superhero fatigue was a thing. I'm beginning to think could just be Marvel fatigue for a moment. But at the same time, again, depending on how this continues to do for Superman, then maybe there is a superhero fatigue. I don't know, because again, 400 million. We're looking. It's right now in the same ballpark as some of the other superhero films that have come out recently. And more recently, like Thunderbolts. If I'm correct, it didn't see past 400 million, or somewhere in the 400 million ballpark, whatever. And that's a film that I feel like had nothing. It had no other films to contend with in its time, in its moment, and that's all it made. Where again, Superman unfortunately was in the space it was, where it's like you had, Jurassic World, big IP, and then Fantastic Four, big IP. So yeah, it's luckily it had a second week to do something, but even then, in the second week, this is it. This is all. I feel like this was its moment. If there's more numbers to be earned, I think it could possibly see it past 500, maybe, but probably not. Probably not. We won't really know till we get there, But okay, why is this showing? Sorry, guys. Do that. There you go. But that's where I think that's at. And again, which just is telling that again, I don't know if the studios just think like, I don't know what they're thinking, like I don't know why they tried to lie about this, right? We discussed this last time, where it's like they tried to make it seem like this was really the best Superman film out there, like you're the best one to exist, come out, opening weekend numbers, right? Which, like I said on Seal Channel, even on my own, is like, I'll give credit where credit is due. 120 million and whatever the number was, opening weekend was, that's a good number now, right? Right now, how movies are doing, that's a good number now. But like when you're really, if you're, but in the comparison of the movies that came before it, as far as the Superman movies, the lie that it was somehow the best opening weekend was just crazy to me, considering again that the best opening weekend was Batman versus Superman. But again, here we are now, second weekend. What's the entirety of the box office going to be? Again, it's at 460.2 million right now. Last I checked. Maybe it's different now, but last I checked, that's where it's at. Man of Steel was 668 million. Are we going to pretend that it somehow still has legs to see that? I don't think so. And then obviously, like I said before, if there's any film to actually really truly compare it to, because it would seem that this was the one that James Gunn was trying to compete against, is Batman versus Superman, because it really tries to do the same thing Batman versus Superman does, and that's create a story that has people conflicted with whether or not they trust Superman or not. For the most part, a lot of people do, but the government has its, in this film, it has its not restrictions. It has its reserved opinion on him. So it's like, again, that's somewhat of BVS as well. Like Batman vs Superman is like the government like was very reserved on how they really thought about Superman. I mean, they can acknowledge he's doing good, but you're intervening in things that aren't necessarily what they believe his, I guess, obligation. But then again, it's like, according to what, right? I mean, they're again, I'm not going to get deep into that. Whole point is that's an aspect, right? And then the fact that you're introducing this movie is it's an ensemble. Nobody can tell me that this is a Superman solo movie. The only thing that hints that it's a Superman solo movie is the fact that the movie's called Superman. But the movie for sure is an ensemble. It's not a Superman movie alone. It's not a Superman solo movie by any stretch of the imagination. It is an ensemble because the other characters very much do have a part in this story, right? Like a significant part. This isn't like Batman versus Superman where it introduces characters, right? Like, the way that he does in BVS, with the exception of Wonder Woman, right? And Batman, that are, Batman more than anything, that is part of the Superman story of Batman versus Superman. And then Wonder Woman loosely in the end, or like from the middle to the end. And then all the other characters are just like introduced, but this, they're part of the story in a very one-dimensional type of way. Where this story, for sure, in the new Superman, no, the story does there's a plot around them too, and elements of them that are being introduced in this movie. So it's an ensemble movie. This is not a Superman movie, really, like on its own. And it's like Sil said, like you could call this Metropolis because yeah, it's all a Metropolis for the most part, right? It's like and you're very much seeing a lot of Metropolis, like things that really shouldn't. It's almost like, again, these are the things that it's like, oh, well, let's force feed you something about him so that it's just set. But and then it's like, but you wasted screen time to do that when you could have just used screen time to tell a better story or tell the story in a better way. Anyways, so that's that. But again, all that to say that that's really the film it was competing against, and it's by in no way, shape, or form it is beating Batman versus Superman, and that's just a fact. But that's really the film it's competing against. Really and truly, for what the Superman movie is, it's actually competing against BVS. Like that's the contender. Like for where the story's at in the time, where Superman is at story, like in the storyline and the characters of the ensemble concept of, it's really competing against that movie. Even what the story's doing, it's competing against that movie. I can see why. Again, I can see the inclination being, oh, we're going to compare to Man of Steel because they're both a starting point, so to speak. But this movie does a disservice to that, for it shoots itself in the foot in that regard. That you're trying to launch a new universe, obviously, right? Like, and he's made that clear. But you do it in such a messy way. And anybody who can't be honest about that, again, it's like, what are we doing here? Like, let's just be honest. It's very messy. It's a very messy movie in that regard, that it's introducing things forcefully without really like making sense of things, And maybe it's because some of these things, maybe you do got to watch Peacemaker. Maybe that is the case. I wouldn't know. I will say that threw me off though when I did see him in the movie, and I'm like, how does this character exist here, but yet he existed in the DCEU timeline? So I don't know. I don't know if that's explained in Peacemaker. I don't know if this is Universe's version of Peacemaker. Who knows? I really don't even know anymore because, again, all of this is thrown at you without explanation. Again, yeah, there's a lot that happens in this movie that are just like, it's just like, bam, here it is. Here he is. Here she is. This is who they are. Like this, you know what I'm saying? Like without really saying who they are, why they exist, whatever, blase, blase, all that, Again, if you have to watch Peacemaker, then maybe that's why I'm missing it. But that's a show I really don't intend to watch at all, period. So I guess sucks for me if that is part of this. Like you have to watch that to understand certain things in this movie. What I will say is that, again, that being said, the movie's at where it's at in the money wise, and to me, the reason I'm focused on that is because I see people trying to use like the whole like cinema score thing and the Rotten Tomato score thing, and don't get me wrong, I guess that has its place. It does to a certain degree, and maybe this is just my preference or my thought process. I'm kind of not buying those things anymore personally because, I mean, here's the thing. I feel like that stuff works in the same way kind of polls do, meaning it doesn't really quantify the exact feeling of something or thought of something, right? Like, polls for the most part, they have a focused demographic that they reach, and that's how they get their numbers sometimes. And even for those that do spread out, it's like, still you can only get so many numbers to just, to get a somewhat of a percentage of what you think it is. But even that, if you know that, well, 1,000 is a great quantifier of millions of people. And I'm more like, yeah, so when it going down to like why I think that this is the cinema scores, the Rotten Tomato scores, like it's all the same thing. One, certain grades and certain scores and ratings come from actual critics, and it's like, and there's only a numerous amount of critics, and some of them can be bought and paid for. So I don't know. I don't know if I can fully trust the critics, right? So like I have skepticism there, but let's just even move past that one and go towards, let's just say, scores and ratings that are given by people, fans. Let's just say fans. But that's the problem. Fans themselves, if they're the only ones grading this, going out, you can say, I can tell you this much: the general audience isn't going out of their way to grade these things. Not a lot. Like my wife, like I said, I use her as the general audience representative because that's what she is. She's such a normie that, again, she has no idea where to. She's not gonna go out of her way to go rate this movie on Rotten Tomatoes or anywhere else. Like she can Letterboxd and things like that. Like those are things that are for like the aficionados. You know what I'm saying? Like even on, like if you're a film lover, if you know about these things, you're gonna go on there and rate these things, sure. And so like that number is representative really of only those people. These like that number, that grade, that rating, it's representative of those that are in the know, that are in the circle, that are in that bubble. So those grades, those numbers, those ratings aren't really if we're honest, it really isn't representative in quantifying the actual reception of the film, right? But even, and I say that because you could see, I've seen people use those things to dismiss the fact that this film really and truly has been received with a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag, right? Like again, like if you're actually looking, it's a lot of mixed reviews. Like it's people that love it, people that are in the middle for it, like and then those that just don't, like, aren't fucking with it. You know what I'm saying? And that's coming again from people that actually watch the film. That's actually what you're getting here, and that's the most honest thing you can say of how this film's been received. I'm just now adding the layer of, but even those that are highly praising it, I'm not so sure how honest those receptions are, or their perception is, not because they're being dishonest intentionally, but probably because I feel that I think you just want it to be great. I think you just want it to be hopeful the way some people are painting. I think you just want it to be that you'll accept it as that, you know, because again, like, yeah, the movie kind of like just puts that on you on its own, like, you know, like it's like we're gonna tell you that's what it is without you really saying, after watching this movie and the way just Superman was behaving, without really saying that this is what he's doing, and without it being said, I feel like there's like, man, I was very, there was so much hope in this Superman, whatever, blah, blah. There was so much, whatever, da, da, da. This isn't that. It's really like forced on you, the way it's delivered. And again, for the normies, they won't recognize that it's force fed to them. They'll just like, oh yeah, that's what it is, you know. While again, for somebody who's paying attention to the details, I'm gonna catch that and be like, no, it's not. It's definitely not like it's forced on you. Like, you know, like it's like, look, this is what it is, despite the disconnect throughout the film and despite the moments of I don't know, I guess failure to be who you're supposed to be, whatever, and all that. It's all that jazz. It's again, it's very much designed to feed the general audience. I'll say that much. This film for sure was, and when I say feed, I really mean force feed. It's force feed, fast food type meal on the scale of Marvel, and to the point where we are where we are. DC right now officially has become Marvel. Like that's that. Like DC is Marvel now, guys. This is this is the reality we live in. DC has officially become Marvel. The way it's delivering its movies. I mean, and granted, I'll be honest, like this isn't the first movie doing that. But this is where they're choosing to officially plant their flag in their new universe. And hey, if this is what you want, this is what you're getting, right? This is what it is. For those of you who don't, but that expect more, I guess, then yeah, you are in for disappointment. I'll say that much, because even Supergirl's display at the end, which I know everybody knows by now. I don't know if that's I don't know, that probably wasn't a no, my bad, guys. I don't know if that was a reveal or not, but I feel like people have already talked about it. Yeah, even that was like kind of like, okay, what are we doing here? And I'm not so sure if that's supposed to be have me excited for for the Supergirl movie. You know, I don't know what you thought you were doing. Again, for me, definitely not. Maybe for others, it is. Again, my issue with what he's doing here, and this is what I guess Marvel does sometimes, and it's that you try really hard to make these characters that aren't necessarily, how do you say, like, where even when they're in their costumes and doing things that aren't necessarily real and normal, you still for whatever reason feel the need to like make them have conversations that we would have and say things that we would say, joke around about things that we would say and the way we would say them, that only makes sense in a real life setting to us humans, you know what I mean? Due to the environment we're in. But if I can take this like superhero concept of heroes working together and then give it that warehouse flair, how workers react with each other in the warehouse. Yeah, that's it. That's the way to do this. And that to me is just like, wait, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, no, like that's different. You know what I'm saying? Like, not everything's the same, you know, and it feels like that. Like that's every character has the same humor in this movie. Not one character stands apart for being more mature, being more serious. Like, no, everybody for some reason has humor. Everybody for some reason is comedic. And that's the thing that's like so I'm in this fake world, you know, because that's not how life is. Not everybody has a sense of humor. Not everything, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then everything like that we can make a joke, we're gonna make it a joke. Not everything, you know what I'm saying? Like, this world for sure, this movie for sure is that campy, corny feeling, like comedic. That's what this movie is. Uh, oof, it's again, it's I can see why some people love it. Again, and it's mostly again, if you're a gun fan, then yeah, he jizzed all over your face for sure. He's jizzing all over your face with his gunisms, whatever. Like throughout this whole film, this is Super Lord for sure in effect. Uh, you know, this is this is the Justice Gang of the Galaxy. Like it is that. Like anybody who's saying it's not, like, no, that is what it is. This is what it feels like. Every character. This is how the film's delivered. It for sure is that. Like anybody who's saying it's not that. Like again, I don't know how you can say that with a straight face. This is that. And hey, if you like it, you like it. If that's what you like. That's what you like. It can't knock you for it. You know, not my cup of tea or cup of coffee or not my forte. Not what I want to see in a DC movie. But this is what it is. It's a DC Marvel movie. It's a Marvel movie with DC characters. It's the Guardians of the Galaxy, just Superman and Star-Lord and the rest of the Justice Gang, and you know, it's the Guardians, you know, like it's that. It's very much that, and it's every other character you've seen in the Guardians of the Galaxy that somehow everybody's again has a pun to say. Everybody's, you know, it's that. This is what the movie is, and hey, if this is your movie, this is what you like. Then again, I can see why you like it. If that's what you like seeing in the movies, then I see why you like it. And it's like, hey, power to you. Again, I'm not here to knock you for it. It just all I ask for in these discussions is just honesty. You know, it's just honesty. What bothers me probably most about the narrative of what's happening is that things that people knocked were trying to discredit or trying to like dog down, you know, the DCU or the Snyderverse for that matter. And it's just like, then you to see this movie and it does the very sins that you try to make the narrative of the films prior to it. This film actually does those sins, and somehow you're praising it. That's the part that drives me crazy here. Is that this movie does the very sins that you tried to say was happening in Man of Steel or in BVS, and this film for sure does it way like and way more atrociously, and probably way more like obviously. And somehow those same people that critiqued Man of Steel and critiqued uh, uh, Batman versus Superman, nothing to say here. And this film does that on steroids. Like whether it's like again, introducing how dare I? Why are they bringing all these other characters? Like where do they come from? And like this movie does that again, way more. Uh, oh, Superman doesn't kill, but like in this movie, it's questionable that he for sure kills some people. Like, and that's just a fact. Uh, oh, Superman doesn't act this way. Clark doesn't act this way. Da 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 da. And that's like, again, forcing that in those movies because again, it's like you're kind of forcing a narrative there. And in this one, for sure, like, no, this guy definitely acts out of character. Nobody's saying anything now, right? Like, and I'm not gonna say nobody. There's people up there, like, we're all not. I think now because we live in a time where, like, it's clear that narratives are designed by critics and by bloggers and by influencers that, for whatever reason, like their interests are in trying to get that bag and trying to, I don't know, get whatever perks they can get. They'll just say whatever they want to say. And now that's clear so I think now it's brought the birth of other people to just say, okay, hold on, like we're just gonna have to really put the truth out there because we can't rely on you anymore to say it. And so here we are, and that's kind of like what I'm trying to do here. Is just like I'm just trying to tell the truth of how I see it. But I have to say again, those same critics, those same people, nowhere to be found, silent. They're not making the same. They're not complaining about it now, and in fact, they're praising the movie. Some of them are even praising it for it. So it's kind of like the hypocrisy is crazy. And again, it more crazy because it's withstand that those very things that they point out are stronger in this movie than in the ones that they were trying to complain about it for. Even with and I'll say this just to without giving it too much, I would say other characters that I thought like were like it was funny that what they decided to do with them, the mom pa Kent thing, that was just weird the way it's delivered, and that I can probably break down some other time. But I'll say that even their use in the film, which interestingly enough, no, actually no, I take it back. Even they weren't spared we're gonna do something funny here. There's a moment that it's like they're probably the more serious tone of the film, the most serious tone of the film as it can get, but even they weren't spared. and that's what's again that's back to that notion of like you really can't take nothing serious because everything is left up for like comedic relief. Wherever they can like squeeze it in, they do it for sure. But yeah, definitely not. I don't know how anybody can walk away saying like, "Oh, that's definitive versions of like." Definitely not. And honestly, even what they did with them, there's something that's supposed to be somewhat of a joke, and for some people, I guess, cute, from what I've heard. But where it's like, you guys didn't even have to do that, but you chose to do it anyways. And it's like now that could be part of the whole like political cultural agenda thing, that it's like because again, like I just don't see why you thought you had to do that. But again, I'll probably save that for the actual breakdown of things, which again I'll probably do it this weekend coming up. But yeah, like I'll say that like with them for Mom Pa Ken, it's like yeah it did something with them that I thought was just funny. It just wasn't necessary, and you could probably chalk that up to the whole like political cultural battle thing. But again, I'll dive deeper into that later. Um, man, I'm trying to think what else I could say about the movie that I haven't said, but yeah. Again, I'll just send it on this. I guess I'll say that personally, not worth the watch. I don't think, but if you want to watch it, go watch it. Formulate your own opinion on it. Formulate your own thoughts. These are mine that I'm sharing. But I would say this: like, you don't have to. It's not that, to me, not worth the money. Still, and so I'm kind of glad it wasn't my money. I'll say that. Glad it wasn't my money spent on this. Uh, but I'll say that it's, if I'm, again, back to that review thing, that quick review once leaving the theater, between my own grade, like to my preferences, and like my preferences on top of everything else that I think also just should be what people should concern themselves with in this movie, and via whether it's DC characters, what they're supposed to be like, how they should be displayed, and things of that nature, and then but also just how stories should be told, how the movie should move, the pacing of it, and all that stuff, all that into consideration. Um, I would say I'd probably give it somewhere between a 3 and a 4. Um, but then again, if I'm going to add on top of that what I know probably the general audience is into, I would say this: crypto for sure steals the show. The That's actually something I forgot to touch on. That for sure is a thing. He does steal the show, like despite the fact that he's probably not in it as much as you would think, but he is in it he's in it in significant moments that matter. That it's like his movie. So I'll say that he's in significant enough moments that he is the movie. Like he's probably what people are enchanted by. He's the he's the hat trick. Like he's, I think, really what people are coming away from the movie thinking is a good movie. Like the dog is representative of everything hopeful, right? Like more than Superman is. Like the dog inspires hope. The dog, it gives justice. The dog, like that's probably really the takeaway here, is that crypto is more super than Superman. That's He saved the day probably more than Superman in more significant ways, or if not more, definitely just as the same. Like his feats in the movie are probably just as significant as Superman's, and probably more. And he steals the show, like for sure, for sure. Between like my wife and others, like it is crypto that they love. That he is the star of the movie. That's a fact. That's just a fact. It's not Superman really. It's not Lois. It's not the Justice Gang. It is crypto. It is crypto. Um, yeah, yeah. Again, a lot of these characters are not portrayed to their best ability, in my opinion. Again, and actually, boom. Even the Lois Lane things you hear, the best moment you get out of her probably is the very one we get, and there's more to it. I'd say that in the movie, and again, it's like I said, a lot of what you got in the trailers and in the sneak, whatever, everything that you saw in the promotion of the movie is pretty much the story, just longer, right? So the best you're gonna get out of Lois in that movie really is just that sequence you saw of her questioning Clark. That's her moment. Everything else really not that, doesn't carry that same gravitas that you get in that one moment, and that one moment only, that in a way also is undercut by what follows it, like how it's followed in that same scene. It's yeah, it's really it's really crazy to me to just see how many people are kind of uplifting a lot of these characters that I just feel like, what movie did you see? Like I don't know what movie you saw, because the movie I saw, it really wasn't that great. You know, it is very much subpar for the normies, for the general audience. That's it. Like that's what it has to offer. Um, and nothing else after that, nothing else after that. Like, I can't overstate that. Nothing else after that. It only offers something for a casual viewer, nothing else. So I'm not shocked by a general audience reaction to this movie, and a normie who, again, they're not really film aficionados or cinephiles or things like that. That's not their whole. It's not their whole deal. So they're not really there to enjoy the film as much as also critique it. They're just there to be entertained, right? And if it can deliver on that, they're happy. That's as good as this film gets. What I'm more surprised by is the overpraise by those that I know are, one, either like DC fans, or and two, just like cinematic fans. Because yeah, this movie does not deliver on a cinematic level uh what a what the greatest cinematic films have delivered. In no way, like nowhere near it. And again, and then if you're a fan of DC, you should be skeptical of how they delivered. Not skeptical, but you shouldn't you shouldn't be like blown away with what they did with these characters, or feel that they did them justice, because no, not really. Like, every character that has a moment, again, everything is followed by something that steals the thunder. Um, and it not only steals the thunder, but again, because there's so many things happening and so many moving parts and so much smushiness, that there's nothing to build on. These characters don't get builded on properly. Like, you can't even, like, there's no building up Lois, there's no building up Superman, there's no building up the Justice Gang. Like, none of these characters. All right, none of these characters have a true build up of character development in any real shape, way, or form. They kind of just are who they are, and then that's that. Like, that's all you're getting. That's all you're really getting. And they are what they are. They are what they are, who they are, with no explanation. And then the movie just moves forward. And again, if you're a fan of these characters, you really shouldn't be content with how these characters are displayed. Again, Lois Lane, really not as good as I think people are making her out to be. I mean, again, she probably has one of the strongest moments. Like, again, and it's really just that one scene. It really is just that one scene. Everything else is kind of like, like, it's like, okay, I guess. Yeah, it's it if there was a moment for her to shine, again, it's like you don't have enough to make her actually shine. And I think that's even true of almost every other, like, side character too. Again, and then Superman is just, again, for me, I feel it misses the mark. Metamorpho, same thing. I wasn't content with their version of Metamorpho. Uh, there's a plot with him that I'm like, what? I don't get this. And again, it's like it's thrown into the story without divulging any kind of, like, story to it. It's like, it's just there. It's happening. It's part of the story. Accept it. It is what it is. And that's weird to me. It's like, what is going on here? And again, it's a version of Metamorpho I'm not used to seeing. I don't know. And again, I'm not big into the comics enough to know if this is any way, shape, or form of a iteration or an adaptation of his. All I know is the version that I saw in the animated series. This is far from that version. This is not it. Yeah, man. There's a weird thing Hawkgirl does throughout the movie that I'm like, I don't recall. And again, maybe it's a comic thing. I don't know. I haven't read enough Hawkgirl comics to know. I will say, though, from the animated series and I think even the video games, I just don't recall that being a thing, or even in the comic books that I have seen her in, or a part of. I don't recall this being a thing. Uh, I'll put it like this: that meme you see of her like that looks like she's screaming. It's a thing in the movie. It's a thing. Like, but it's like not even screaming. It's not even screaming the way that if it was actually a scream, probably actually would have been more accurate. Because again, in the animated series, yeah, she does some a lot of screaming. Technically, when it comes to her attacking, but yeah, it was a weird thing. I don't recall that being a thing. Sorry guys, in the movie, I mean in the animated series, but in the movie, she had this weird thing she was doing. Uh, like I said before, even like seeing this movie, that I said, I think Mr. Terrific will probably be the only thing I like in the film. And for sure, as much as again they do with him the same thing. Every character again, every character apparently has a sense of humor. Every character has pun moments and things of that nature. There's really no character left to be like. There's no seriousness at all really in this movie. But yeah, he's probably the coolest character, and they give him some screen time moments and CGI parts that are good for him as a character. But again, it's just not enough to execute proper delivery for the character, because again, everything's undercut by moments of comedic levity and parody and things of that nature. What else? Yeah, I think that's all I could think about. I don't know. There's a lot that could be said, I guess, but again, without getting into too much detail, I think that's all I really can say. Yeah, and like I said, there's the story to me it's not well written. It's the pacing is off, and yeah, again, I think anybody who's highly praising this movie, I'm kind of shocked as to why. Again, like the wife, she coming out of the theater thought it was good. Like she was like, oh yeah, 8 or 9, and again, kind of was expected. She's very much representative of the general audience. She doesn't really know much about DC. She's not really a cinephile like that. She just enjoys movies for what they are. But even she has it. Like even when we have conversations, she'll have moments of critique. That again, once we finally had that discussion, she brought down that rating, like that whole. She brought it down to a 7. She said, and because again, for sure, for a general audience, a casual viewer, yeah, I mean the movie gives you enough. It gives you enough. There's comedy, there's action, there's I'm gonna call it this because it's what it really is. Because again, it's not really well written. There's false romance plots, that to the casual viewer, like, oh yeah, they're it is what it is. They're in love, type of stuff and things of that nature. Um, yeah, things like that for sure. I will say this actually before I forget. The funny thing about a casual viewer and general audience, and this is why it's important that I think a lot of us speak up on this, and I think because they were betting on this, and again, this does go to the dishonesty of some people. I know you know better, so why would you lie about this? But my wife, being a casual viewer, there's things that she thinks she took because maybe she didn't. I think she just didn't remember that these are things that did appear. Like certain things are in Man of Steel or in BVS that kind of gives you insight on the character or a sense of like why they do what they do or who they are. But she left that movie thinking certain things are comic, like, or not comic book accurate, but she left thinking to herself, oh, I didn't know that that's Superman's origin with his parents, right? So she thought the whole, Jor-El and Laura-El, whatever, message of like conquer, kill, under heel for those who don't follow, and impregnate, and have a harem of women, whatever, bed whatever woman. She thought that was actually like, because she didn't know no better, she thought that like, oh, I didn't know that was it. That's interesting. So like that to me was like, oh no, like this is what I'm trying to get at. Like this is why it is important for us to like actually be honest about whether or not this is true to Superman or not, because this is what people who don't know are going to actually think this is what it is, right? They're going to think that his parents actually did send him to, like, oh, that's part of his origin story. Cool. Or not cool, but like, oh, I didn't know that. It's like, it's not that like it really wasn't a cool thing or not for her. Just she thought she was learning something new that she didn't know. Like, oh, I didn't know that that was a thing. And I'm like, and until like, no, that's because it's not a thing. Like, not, it's not a canonical, like it's a thing in like a part of a comic. And actually, funny enough, like if I'm correct, it's like an Ultraman story, not even a Superman story. So I was like, it's kind of funny that that was a thing they decided to do here, considering that he had decided to bring his version of Ultraman. But anyways, yeah. So like she thought that was true to the story. Like she, not knowing, she thought like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that was a thing. There was like some other things too. I'm trying to think like what she thought was canon. She thought like, oh, I didn't know this. Man, what was it? There was some other things I can't remember right now. But all that to say that hearing them like, oh no, like this is or she even thought like the whole humanizing factor of Clark in this, like the making him out of his character, making him more relatable, making him more relatable to a flawed man. That's what they actually do in this movie. They make him more relatable to a flawed man. And she thought like, oh, I didn't know this is Superman. Like this is, oh, I felt like I liked it because they showed me more things about Superman that I didn't know. And it's like, well, that's because no, this isn't who Superman really is. Like, not really. Superman isn't flawed like that, right? Like for instance, like I'll probably the scene that I did explain to her more in depth that I won't share everything because it's again a lot longer, but we do know about it, and I'll just talk about that one part we all know about that I think we all critiqued, and that's that him spazzing out at Lois during that like interview thing. Like I'm like, that's not him. That's not really. Again, he's the best of us. He's not supposed to comport himself that way. He is super in every way, even to his decorum, the way he speaks to people, the way he even to interviews, even to especially Lois Lane. This is supposed to be the woman he loves. Again, he's not supposed to be like us. He's supposed to be better than us, and we're supposed to look up to him. In fact, I even stated this, and that's that the fact that Superman receives some sort of like flack or hate, that he's a Boy Scout, that he's too perfect, like you're not supposed to be Warner Brothers or DC for that matter should be taking that as a badge of honor. Like that's a good thing. If people hate it, it means that the character's doing that which it's supposed to do, and that it's supposed to convict us of who we are. Like that's if anybody hates on him for that reason, it's because that. It's because we feel threatened in a way, not threatened, but we feel like, oh, it reveals that we're not as good. We're really not as good as we're supposed to be. Like we're not really being our best selves. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what he does, and that's a good thing. We're not supposed to leave a Superman movie or reading a Superman story thinking to ourselves like, oh man, he's just as flawed as I am. No, it could be that he's facing the same struggles I face, but the way he approaches them, the way he reacts to them, the way he speaks about them or speaks to them, whatever, it's supposed to be the right way. The way we being flawed don't always do because we're flawed. And then there's someone for us to look up to. Again, that's what Superman's supposed to be. So even in that interview, he's supposed to know how to speak. He's supposed to know it's not even just about like he's supposed to know how to comport. It's about like when you're that guy, you know what to say, you know the right things to say. And again, there's more to that scene, honestly, that demean that character, demean Superman and Clark even more. That it's like that's not what he's supposed to do. And in fact, in retrospect, when you look at the Batman versus Superman sequence of Lois Lane and Clark, like that's right. Like, and what I mean by that is like technically in that shower scene, right? Or but not shower, but the tub scene, Lois Lane in that tub scene kind of grills him, right? Like talking about like, yo, what happened in the desert? They're questioning it, you know, but what did happen? You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm concerned about, whatever, and all of that, right? And you look at that, and that's Clark coming, thinking, oh, I'm gonna surprise my girlfriend with some dinner, about her some flowers. I want to, and now I'm being bombarded with this commentary, these questions, these critiques, and then to the point where she says a similar statement, and maybe I'm saying, I'm saying too much. I said too much there probably, but Lois Lane in BVS says something that it is said in this movie, right? And that's that Lois Lane mentions, I'm not sure if this, something along the lines, right? So let's just say, to stick to BVS, she says, I'm just not so sure this would work. You being who you are, and me being me, and who you are. Referring to Clark being Superman and all that. And I'm not going to say what Superman didn't do to reveal what this guy does in this movie, or I'm not going to reveal what Clark does. Yeah, I'm not going to say what Clark didn't do, what he doesn't do in BVS, to not point out what this Clark does in this movie. That's just like wrong. But let's just say that despite what friction and opposition Clark faced in that tub scene in Batman versus Superman, he does the right thing, and he does what most men would have a hard time doing, unless it's a man who just has learned and knows this is what you do, and that's that. I know what you said. You're saying what you feel, right? A man taking what a woman says, it's like, I know, I have to know this is what you feel. This doesn't necessarily mean it's true, and I know that despite you feeling some type of like way, I'm going to go the extra mile here and break through this negativity that you have right now, and I'm just going to go harder and just and woo you with love, and break that down, that wall down that you're putting up right now. And I'm gonna break it down. And that's what he does, right? He's like, after everything's said, again, I'm not even gonna say what he didn't do. It's gonna be worth mentioning later. But he grabs that flower, right? And he smells it, and I think he gives it to her. And then he does like very something spontaneous, and just like, again, to shatter the negativity, and just goes in the tub, and a moment of intimacy rather than a moment of whatever. I'm not even gonna, again, not to get too deep into what happens in this movie. It's things like that, But again, her not being the casual viewer, again, she's seeing these things, and she thinks this is Superman. She thinks this is the actual, like, what the parents actually sent them to. Things that, if we're willing to like be like, oh, this is just an adaptation. Oh, this is just an iteration. This is just another Superman from another world. And if we're willing to be okay with that, the problem with that being the issue on the big screen, right, is that the general viewer, the general audience, the casual viewer wouldn't know no better and would actually think this is true about this character. And that's what's kind of dangerous, or not dangerous, but why it's important to like point out what's wrong here in this movie, and not just like casually go back and be like, oh yeah, this is just a universe where Superman is the way he is, and the characters around it, it's just this world. Like, it's just what it is. It's like, the problem is, again, is that, and this is what I stated before, and that's that they're unfortunate, and this is actually why I believe even the numbers are what they are, and that's that there's unfortunately has not been enough of the proper Superman, which we got in Henry Cavill Superman, from Zack Snyder's work to his work, and there just wasn't enough of that for people to like, one, still be engaged with that character, but two, also to just know who that character actually is holistically and the characters around him and what they mean to him in a supportive way, right? That's the issue here. And again, credit to those who are saying what it is. And like somebody I think even shared like a Grace Randolph clip where she said something to the liking of what is true, and that's that you're trying to start something new still, and this is the issue, and it is an issue. And anybody who doesn't see that, I think there's a sense of naiveness there, and or probably it's just like, who cares? Maybe is the attitude, and maybe that's yeah, and then maybe that is what it is. But at the same time, like if we all really care, then it's like no, we can't just we just can't sit back and lay back and kind of just let things be because again, this is the big screen. This is a theater experience. This is a cinematic thing where more people than just fans are going to go watch this. And that matters when it comes to what are they getting? What are they receiving? What is the casual viewer walking away from this with? Um, that matters. And so again, when I saw that my wife was saying these things, I'm like, oh no, this is a thing that the general audience is walking away with. They think this is proper Kal-El's parents' storyline. They think this is actually Superman. Superman actually has these vulnerable or flawedness like a regular man, and it's like that's not actually it. And it's not to say that again. It's not to say that he doesn't have these struggles. And again, there are moments for sure that he has moments of weakness where he almost breaks character, right? And but there's always something that keeps him from crossing that line. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking. And let's not even get into the whole killing thing because it's like, look, let's just be honest. Realistically, you are gonna kill if you have to. That's just a fact. And I'm not gonna pretend like, oh, we can dance around that. No, it's a thing. If he has to kill, he's gonna kill. Like that's just what it is. And he has. So I'm not gonna pretend like he hasn't. That's not what we're talking about here. Because even in those moments, there's no choice, right? And that's what I mean. When you find him in those moments that he crosses that line, it's that there's one, like again, the killing thing, there's just no choice. There's no way around it. So he had to kill. But two, like again, even the moments where like he's about to like rage and he's just really frustrated, and you can see that he kind of shows that moment of weakness. It's really something that really does push the needle. One, but two, there's always in a story that's written well, there's always the characters around him that keep him from crossing that line. And this film didn't do that either. Like there was no character to stop him from falling, from being who he is, you know, or in a sense, maybe because that's just not who he is in this universe, and that's a problem. That should be a problem for people who really supposedly do revere Superman, um, because yeah, this guy fails to actually be Superman in every facet that makes Superman Superman. Um, so yeah, that was a thing. I realized I was like, oh no, the general audience is going to walk away from things from this movie thinking that this is canon, they're true to the character and to his storyline, and I'm like, that's not good. That's not good at all. So that's a problem. Um, so yeah, that being said, um, we are not in the wrong in critiquing the film for what it is. So anybody who's already doing that, like hats off to you, kudos to you. Um, you know, and I would say this. There's nothing wrong with critiquing the film, right? Like let's do that all day. What I'll try not to do, and even in this moment, I'm trying to even give grace to those that are really praising this movie. That I'm kind of curious as to why. Again, because I know they know a lot of the lore and stuff. But or because I've seen their reviews before, and I'm like, I know you know some things, so it's like it's kind of weird that you're praising this. And then some of them again, like, look, there are those that I for sure like. I know that look, you sway wherever the wind goes. I've seen you do that before. Like, I'm talking about like, these aren't necessarily people that are close to me. I'm just talking about like people like influencers online. Things like that. It's like I've seen you sway here and there. Um, so I'm like I'm not really surprised. Shame on you for not being consistent. Um, or at least if you're gonna pivot, I just wished you had a more solidified reason to pivot. Um, but either way, um, I feel like it's the reason I had to like kind of just I just wanted to share this because I'm like, all right, we're in the second week, or the second weekend just passed. Um, I probably should be able to spoil it, but again, I'm gonna give it time, at least to the end, at least to the weekend, so that way, because I'm almost for certain, just like once Fantastic Four for sure is officially out, I'm almost certain like there's nobody. I think that's it for Superman's official like legs to like make it any kind of money. It might still make some kind of money throughout that weekend, throughout those weekends. I'm not going to say that's not it's going to make no money. I don't know that for certain, but I know for certain that whatever kind of legs it had up until this past weekend, that it's gone now for sure. So like I'm almost certain this is the peak of it. Maybe it keeps going up to 500. I don't know if it'll actually reach that. It might. It's definitely. I don't think it's definitely going to reach Man of Steel numbers. And the reason this matters, I think, just to like share this because I know that there's some discussion as to Warner Brothers already trying to like give themselves a way out and trying to say like we're not interested in the money or like what we're making in theaters. We're just concerned with how our movie's being received critically. And it's like the sad part about that is that, like I said earlier, there's a bit of dishonesty there, right? Because it's like critically acclaimed movies also aren't necessarily the end all be all of what really your movie is. It's because that doesn't truly quantify how your movie is actually being received. Um, so it's really this honest way of like patting yourself in the back, and it's just crazy that we're here now. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of crazy. Um, because it's like you should want more, you should want better. You had better, and you can have better, and you choose not to. In my personal opinion, if Gunn was like, because again, I don't see this doing any better than where it's at. Like, I think it's gonna stay in the 400s, which is exactly what I predicted. And then I said generously, I might say could reach. And back then I said generously it might reach five. I'll say it might reach five, but I was like it would take certain components for that to be the case, and that was like stronger promotion, the Gun fans and Marvel fans showing out for this movie. But even that, I was questioning it because I'm like, but they haven't even showed up for their own movies, so I'm not so sure that's enough. But maybe with them added with the DC fans that'll just go see any DC movie, maybe that'll give it the push to get to 500. I feel like I felt like that was like the ceiling somewhere in the 500s, if not just 500. You know, at this point, I'm not so sure it's going to get there, but if it does, that's it. I don't. Which is weird that they're still trying to say that they predict it going to. I'll say this: if it reaches 600 to 700, I'm almost willing to bet those are fabricated numbers. To be honest with you, and I just to say, and I'm only saying that because. I'm only saying that because the way what the movie did in its second weekend, going up against Fantastic Four in Fantastic Four's opening weekend, there's just no way it's supposed to do more numbers than where it's at right now, and how it can probably slowly climb from where it's at. It'd be really weird if it somehow reached 600 and 700 by the end of this month, considering that now Fantastic Four is about to have its opening weekend and following weekend coming up. So it's hard to see that it's going to do anything drastically after that. And then again, it probably depends how long they depend or how they intend to have the film out there for. I guess that's another factor, but yeah. I don't want to go any longer than 2 hours. I'm reaching the 2 hour mark on it there. I don't think it's going to do any more than what we're seeing. And I think that's a telling sign of where it's at. And I think it's dishonest to say that that doesn't matter and only the uh, critical reviews is all they're concerned with, right? That's a very dishonest way of saying like uh, we don't want to look at what really matters, and that's profitability, and that the numbers what it makes is telling of how well the movie's received in a sense because if it doesn't because here's the thing, right? And I'll say this because on the opposite side of that, and I'll end it on this. On the opposite side of that is movies that were successful and they were convincing people through the critically acclaimed bullshit that those movies were divisive and or had issues. Yet these are the most successful movies you have. Isn't there something weird about that? And I stated this a while ago. I don't know if it was Seal Stream or my stream with somebody, but it's the whole point that can we get past the part where we stop admitting that there were issues with BVS and Man of Steel when the numbers don't show that, and that maybe it was that narrative concocted and weaved by the critically acclaimed and the people that make those art, the bloggers and then the paid shills and things of that nature, the Disney bots, and all that. That it was just something concocted by them that really wasn't true according to the numbers. And yet now on the other side of that coin, it's, oh, the numbers aren't good here, but the critically acclaimed is what matters. You get what I'm saying? That's the world we're living in right now, and that's just crazy, and that's unacceptable, and we should be able to hold the powers that be to account and saying, no, that's not going to slide. You guys lied before, and you're lying now, and that's just crazy. Like, it's just weird that we're living in this moment right now, that people are willing to just stand on lies rather than just like, which is crazy, rather than just standing on the truth, and that's that you guys did have some successful films that were actually probably, when you look past the fog of deception of the critically acclaimed bullshit of the critics and the bloggers and all that, and that's that clearly this movie was a good movie and people were really interested and they went to go see it and they were successful and they liked it, regardless of what these fake fans, I'll put it like that, these fake fans that supposedly, oh, I have issue with this, that, or the just people that are clearly not fans of DC anymore, meaning like if they were holding on to some sort of like Christopher Reeve's notion of Superman, it's like, if these are the people you're concerned with, they're clearly not actually DC fans, they're Christopher Reeve's fans. And there's a difference because you guys clearly, as a brand, have evolved your characters since then, and we're in a different place now. And for them to still be stuck there, clearly they're not fans of your brand if they're still moaning about these things. So that's that. And actually, somebody actually brought up a good point. Somebody shared this with me on X, and there's I forgot the count. I should probably look it up just so I don't butcher this. But where are you? Oh, here we go. And because I thought this was actually worth mentioning, because it was a cool breakdown. And again, it's nothing new. It's not like I haven't heard this before, but this, again, it's worth bringing up, and pretty much to like sum it up, to not really touch it down, but I'm going to name the account to give him his credit because he did the homework. And the account is Simi Supreme, right? Simi Supreme. And he said pretty much, and again, this is me summarizing it. And that's that technically the version of Superman that Zack Snyder gave, right, through Henry Cavill, Man of Steel, and Batman vs Superman, all that, the Henry Cavill Superman, is that version of Superman is actually more true to that actual first version of Superman created back in 1938, right? By what are the two people who created it? He said their names actually. Let me look it up because I don't want to butcher this. I thought this was a very good point. Damn, did I pass it up already? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I know it's in here somewhere. Oh man, come on. Oh, there we go. Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster in 1938. So, which is actually important because a lot of people, again, the people who are Christopher Reeves fans, they make it seem like that's the definitive version of Superman, and maybe it is on the big screen, right? Because I've said that before. We have to acknowledge that there's people who never read comics, but their affinity to these characters are whatever they received on the big screen. That's true of Superman. That's true of Batman, Spider-Man, any character that these people have seen on the big screen. That's really their only notion of knowledge of these characters, right? And some even the TV shows, right? Like it's really that's the only media that they've consumed of these characters. They really don't know anything about the comics, and we can acknowledge that and say like, and if that's the case, then it makes sense the Chris Reeves thing. But again, if we're going to be honest about is Zack Snyder's Henry Cavill Superman true to the true portrayal to who Superman really is, and if you're being honest, it's yes, and in fact, it's more true in its portrayal to the most original version of Superman, like, or also to the most original version of Superman, and that's the very first version of him, and that's that 1938 version, right? Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, who created him. That's that our version, the Henry Cavill version of Superman, is more true to that, and other iterations that followed after, like the Man of Steel comic line or comic book, and even like aesthetically closer to the New 52 version, and that's the Superman, that whole like comic line, whatever, all those comics. If we're honest, like he was good. Like that character, Zack Snyder did nail that. If we're going to be honest, and let's just be honest about that, right? So yeah, again, the credit to where credit is due. Simi's Domain or Simi Supreme. Shout out to that account that just posted that, and I thought, hey man, that's actually really good. Good work, good doing that homework and figuring that out. And again, it's not the first time it's been mentioned. I know that for a fact, but still worth mentioning. So again, it's what's sad is the disingenuousness there. That's, I guess, what matters here and why we're here now. Like, and why it's understandable that, yeah, there are people that are still going to go up to bat against this studio that just keeps refusing to do right by the fans, and actual fans, like fans that should matter. You shouldn't, and it's clear that this movie, again, if we're being honest, really disenfranchises any kind of fan because, like I said, anybody who's actually honest, this Superman isn't really true an adaptation to any iteration before it. If anybody's being honest, that's actually true. That's the truest thing to be said about this Superman. And in fact, it's, again, arguably that they're just trying to reach a new audience because the only ones they're convincing is the new audience that has no knowledge of this character and what came before it, or no retention of even what came before it, to its most recent iterations, which says a lot, but yet, funny enough, like that's watching the movie. Now, funny enough, again, it's like it's true that some people actually do still, and this is again just the film people that watch DC movies, and that's that to them. A lot of them they still did like the Henry Cavill version of Superman, and they wanted more of that, and that's still a thing. And then they saw this movie and they're like, oh, okay, it's definitely different from that guy. So that's still a thing, that's actually still a thing also. So like, let me not just make it seem like there's a complete disconnect. There isn't just there's not a complete disconnect. There is somewhat of a disconnect, and maybe a major disconnect, but not a full disconnect. Some people still are very much can very much recollect what they got out of the Henry Cavill Superman, very much so, and they see this and they're like, "This is different," um, and this is that's that. So, anyways, let me probably stop here again. We're past the 2 hour mark. Um, to wrap this up, I will say again, if you haven't watched the movie and you're on the fence about it, I'd probably say don't worry about it. Whatever notions you got out of the trailer, it really is that. Like this really is what the movie is. It's not. It's really nothing different from what you got in the trailer. It's really not. It's really what you got in the trailer is just more of that, and some of what you saw in the trailer is a lot longer. It doesn't really change anything, not really. And I've seen some people say that it does, and I'm like, I just didn't see that, not as much as I thought. Not as taking their word for what it is. I thought, okay, well maybe there's some truth to what I'm not saying that they're lying. I'm more intrigued to find out why their perception of it is what it is. But yeah, for me personally, what you get in the trailers is what you get in the movie. Again, just a lot more of it. Some other stuff sprinkled in between, but nothing with much substance or gravitas or great storytelling. Really, it's not a great story at all. Not really. Like not in the way it's told. Again, if you're if you're basic, if you're a normie, casual viewer, sure, maybe you're fooled enough to believe, oh man, that was a good movie, good story, whatever. But really and truly, it's not really when you actually start breaking down things and like critique, like saying things for what they are. The wool is quickly removed from the eyes, and it's like, oh, actually, yeah, it's not that good of a movie. But so yeah, it's if you're not for it, don't worry about it, don't see it. And again, if this was your movie, hey man, power to you, kudos to you. Um, it's I'd like to have conversations with anybody who's really up for this movie. What is that you actually liked about the movie? Because honestly, I really didn't find much that I liked about the movie. Again, the best moments are for sure crypto, and that's not even that's I have issues with certain things that happen with crypto, but for the most part, like it is what it is. He steals the show again, and I say that more like as a how do you say reading the room, right? It really was crypto who stole the show, right? Um, and but yeah, I'd like to if you have opposite opinion of what I have. Again, anybody who knows, like, I don't mind the conversation. I don't mind have different opinions. We can break it down, talk about it civilly, respectfully, and really break down what is it you liked, and I'll tell you why I didn't like it. You know what I'm saying? But so that open invitation for that. Again, personally, I'll probably give it like a 3 or 4 out of 10, somewhere between those two. Like on just a personal level, if I'm going to consider just what general audience is like, casual viewers, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. You know, and yeah, I think this was it. This was its last best run, for what it's gonna make. So I don't see it reaching 600 or 700. I barely even see it going to 500. Sorry, there's a mosquito here. I'm like, I want to get ready to smash that bitch if it tries to come my way. So yeah. Anyways, I have to say that there will be more in depth breakdown. Again, even if somebody wants to like break it down with me because you have an opposite opinion of mine, I'm cool with that too. But I'll for sure do a more deeper breakdown, actually revealing, talking about scenes and sequences for what they were and why this was out of whack, the story, the pacing, characters, all that. But as for right now, you got my review. For those who missed it, what I'm saying, catch it from the beginning. Anybody who watches this after, again, appreciate it. Others who hopped in or watching, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, follow, share, comment. Share your thoughts. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Let me know what you think. That being said, Super Chop to me, super flop. Honestly, I can kind of see why that's a thing. It technically is. If we're gonna be honest, I can see why people want to say it's a super flop because it technically is. It doesn't really deliver much. It doesn't really deliver much. If we're gonna be honest, and again, the numbers speak for themselves. I'd be surprised if it goes any higher than in the 400s. But like not heavily surprised. Like I said, I generously said it might reach 500 somewhere there. And that's like again if everybody else shows up that hasn't shown up to see it, or for people that are just watching it a lot more than once. And again, for those who liked it, man, hey, kudos to you, man. Honestly, I don't know how, but if you do, power to you and bless you. That being said, 4 out of 10. You heard it here. Super Chop 2. There will be a Super Chop 3 where we get into more extensive conversation about it, breakdown. But that being said, we are out of here. So peace, love, God bless. And until next time, you know what it is. We are out of here as soon as I can get this video up.
Everybody knows that the dice are loaded. Everybody rolls with their fingers crossed. Everybody knows the war is over. Everybody knows the good guys lost. Everybody knows the fight was fixed. The poor stay poor, the rich get rich. That's how it goes.
If you know, then you know. Can't believe all that you're told. All that glitters and gold. I ain't selling my soul. All of these sellouts and cop-outs, they're making me hop out to get them exposed. Bunch of Pinocchios growing their nose. Always be saying the most. Swear to be lying, not claiming the diamonds when really they cold. When pressure they fold, they do what they told. Sheep to the slaughter, was sheep to a goat. The shepherd and herder is on top of both. Though no one come close to the host of a home. But what if you can be more than a man? An American Idol that's worshipped by fans. You might have a chance to socially advance. Ascension to heaven, look down on the land.
That it's now or never. Everybody knows that it's me or you. And everybody knows that you live forever when you've drawn a line or two. Everybody knows the deal is rotten. Old Black Joe still picking cotton for your ribbons and bows.
And every bone. There's really no difference with politicians and all of the rhetoric. Donkey or elephant, to tell the truth to be hesitant. Like media with subliminal messages. So how it really goes down and how it went down to the way they be telling it. Focus on things that's irrelevant, showing no reverence. What came before at the top of the precipice. Being more negligent to corporations that benefit off of our deficits. We kill the profits of medicine. While the ones at the bottom get shitted on and written off at the end of it. How about religious zealots versus cynical heretics, radical terrorists, racist confederates, criminal elements, all taking life for the hell of it, lacking the love or respect for it.
Thank you! Run that shit back, bro!
There was a time above, a time before. There were perfect things, diamond absolutes. Things fall, things on earth. And what falls is fallen.
Bruce!
For a fallen angel, is there enough grace? Weens clip each hit, leaves a scar on his face. Battle after battle, now how much more can he take? No more soul sword, nearly about to break. Trying to separate what is real from all of those who are fake. Redeem himself from his sins and learn from all his mistakes. The more you openly give, the more they're willing to take. Trying to be like God's son, suffers for goodness sake. Looking at the bigger picture, I see that there's higher stakes. Money, power, respect is the only thing that I chase. Truth, love, and justice with my heart in the right place. Knowledge and wisdom for the mind can take me a further way. Knowledge is power, they say, but knowledge without power, power without knowledge can only lead to darker days. But darkness is already here, reality we have to face. But if we face it together, together we can do better. I've been down the road of doing it on my own. It only gets more cold the further you go from home. Yet all the lessons I learned, all the seeds that I've sown, some bridges I burned, I did it all on the road. The pursuit of happiness, cause every dog needs his bone. Escaping childhood trauma that follows you till you're grown. Understanding my choices, not everything I condone. But if you are without sin, then you can cast the first stone. Leaving hypocritical liars, hiding behind your mask. Ivory towers and fake as attire. I'm tired and exhausted from hearing your nonsense. It's garbage, dishonest, can you please grow a conscience? Be aware and present and not be absent of the truth. Then only giving a damn when tragedy happens to you. Only really helping out when it's self-beneficial. Your words cannot be heard when your actions are superficial. Just another beautiful lie. Just another beautiful lie. Just another beautiful lie. Just another beautiful lie. Another beautiful lie. Just another beautiful lie. Martial arts, karate, I bust you down like Itachi, cause you legitimately Hachi. Straight kamikaze, I'm talking to bodies as I go straight brawly. Y'all niggas could hardly be me, I'm not part of the sea. I'm parting the sea like Moses, no psychosis or hocus pocus. I put importance to staying focused. Ignore all the BS on my timeline, I throw a lifeline for those thinking I ain't about mine. Hit you upside your head with a tie iron. Can't be your time if it's my time. The set to be patient, I'm patiently waiting. It's driving me crazy, cause lately the ops that I'm facing is basic and basically tragically hating. Anticipating my fall, they want it all for themselves. So I make the call, no need to stall. I go and get them all off of the shelf. I take affirmative action, I'm blasting and laughing of how you reacting to my satisfaction of cashing injections and Benjis and Wilsons. The life that you always imagined. Brother from the goal, yeah. If you ever see him go, it's Holocaust or Holy Ghost. Overcome or overflow, yeah. Either way it's overdose. Watch you walk or comatose, penetrating to your soul, yeah. Tit for tat and toe for toe, pound for pound and blow for blow. You would never see me fold, nah. Claiming that what you don't know, that is how you get exposed. Left for dead with bullet holes.
Promise to leave it alone. Promises all day.